Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, October 6th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Illinois game in 5 days, the game against Michigan in 54 days. If you are planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. On today's show, you're going to get to hear a little bit from Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. Had some interesting stuff to say after the game. Funny lines as well. Kind of get Ryan Day getting a little loose after the game. You're going to get a Dumb and Dumber quote in here, believe it or not. It was quite a post-game press conference, but you go 42 unanswered points to beat Minnesota 42-3. Yeah, you're going to feel pretty okay about life. So, all right, we'll start. Before we get into the more fun stuff, let's start with something a little more serious. An update on Kenyatta Jackson. He left the game in the first half, did not return, came out without pads on in the second half. An update on him, and then Ryan Day's thoughts on Zion Grady and some of the other young guys who had to step in for Jackson.
Yeah, it was good to see Kenyatta up and moving around and, cheering on supporting his teammates during the game. So we'll take a look at it, but, have an update hopefully soon. But I think to see Zion make a play, Jarquez was in the backfield. I saw Logan make some plays. Every time you're on the field, it's an opportunity. And we're all looking to build trust. And when we put you in the game, the players need to build trust in each other, but you're also building trust in the coaches. And so whatever you do with the opportunity, you got to take advantage of it. And I thought the second offense went out there and went down the field. That was a great opportunity to go out there. And Lincoln, after I won't get into the details of the first run, we gave him another opportunity and he redeemed himself, like in Dumb and Dumber, totally redeemed himself. So that was good to see. But I thought, some of those guys, it was good to see them get in the game and then take advantage of their opportunity.
Now, that was a very long answer, but I will remind you at the beginning, we were talking about Zion Grady and some of the young guys who stepped in Kenyatta Jackson's absence. One of the reasons those guys had to step in is because C.J. Hicks, he is going to be taking a red shirt this season, according to a report from Stephen Means of Cleveland.com. Now, he could still play more in the college football playoff, but he has played in his 4 regular season games, and now he's planning for now to sit those out. That is obviously subject to change, and he could step in and play at any time. Malik Hartford, safety, he is also planning on taking a red shirt this year. Now, I think everyone hears that and immediately says, well, they're going to transfer. That's what that means. Not necessarily. They're both just sort of saving a year of eligibility and a year where they're not starting. So that's the update on those guys. We may have a show where we talk about that stuff in a little more detail. Just wanted to kind of mention it now, just so you sort of know what's going on in case you didn't see that report from Stephen earlier on Sunday. So, all right. Now on to Julian Sayin. He completed 85% of his passes, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Gophers, including, yes, the long-awaited deep shots. They kind of let him heave a couple downfield, and he had some real success throwing the ball deep. They've been pretty deliberate about sort of bringing him along slowly and gradually and letting him, not trying to have him do too much in some of the early games. But now, seems like they're sort of taking the restrictor plate off a little bit. So what is it that makes Julian Sayin special? Now, this answer ends up sort of turning into a conversation about the whole passing game.
I think you're seeing his confidence improve every week, and how we do it is everything's thought out. Not everything always goes to plan, but we're very deliberate about how we try to bring along our quarterbacks. Sometimes we have to maybe put them in situations that they're maybe not ready for. But when you have a defense like we do right now that's playing the way we do, you can bring them along in a certain way. And you're seeing every week Julian play with more and more confidence, and we wanted to put more on his plate this week. We felt like he had a good week of practice. And I can't say enough about, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare. All of these guys are very prideful. All of them want the ball. All of them, have expectations. And to see the unselfishness each week of a bunch of guys that just want to win, like that's winning football in a day and age that there's a lot that's going on. I think, I don't think it's even close that Jeremiah Smith is the best offensive player in college football. If it's close, I'd like to know who it is. But But when you're a receiver, it's different than when you're a quarterback. And coverage can dictate different things, but Jeremiah just keeps playing over and over again, has an unbelievable attitude. And I know the fans appreciate that, but it's also good to hear, I think, from us coaches, just, how he practices every day. And the same thing with Carnell. Carnell's seen Jeremiah do a lot of different things, and now you're seeing Carnell take the next step. But he does that every day in practice. He does a lot of the dirty work. He does a lot of the blocking, and now you're seeing him show up. I thought Max played better. Made some better blocks and made some plays downfield. So he's really coming into his own. But to your point with Julian, I thought some of the throws downfield were very, very accurate, made good decisions. Again, saw it well. But when you can be accurate underneath and get the ball out quick, but then also down the field, that's when our offense can really be clicking on all cylinders. So we're going to watch this film and see some things that we're frustrated with. We know where we need to go. And got to keep getting better. You keep hearing me talk about that because that's just the way it goes. You have to upgrade every week. But I do think that Julian's confidence is building, and I think his teammates, their confidence in him have continued to build over time. And again, I give the offensive line credit for working and straining to give him time back there. I give the running backs credit for their protection and also the receivers for their work every day in practice, because that's how it works. That's how teams get better. And so we have to continue to recognize that, because it's not normal. And that, to me, is what's going to make the difference for where we need to be.
One of the big pieces of that success on Saturday night for the Ohio State passing game was Carnell Tate. 9 catches, 183 yards, and a touchdown. 3 catches of more than 40 yards. He was a big piece of that downfield passing game. So was that sort of an intentional thing to sort of emphasize Carnell Tate a little bit, just to remind teams that, hey, you can't just double or triple or quadruple Jeremiah Smith? There are other guys on this team that can beat you.
Someone can say, hey, we're going to put 4 guys on Jeremiah. I mean, you could do it, and he has to go out there and play. And when you have someone like Carnell and Max and our running backs, who then, and when we get the running game going, then you have to figure out how you want to make these adjustments. And then that opens things back up for Jeremiah. So when you have mature guys who understand that, then that gives you a chance as well. And so we have to continue to communicate that and make sure they understand. But yeah, I mean, when there's more attention over here, it's great to see the fact that we can utilize it over there. When you can't, that's when you're in trouble. And so that's why we have to make sure we're balanced in the end.
One of the other wide receivers who can beat you on this Ohio State team is Brandon Inniss. He was back at punt returner again against Minnesota after the fumble that he had against Washington last week. He also, on Saturday night, had one of the kind of signature plays of the game, sort of a throwback on the punt return, sort of Music City Miracle style almost, on a punt return across the field to Lorenzo style. So what was it that gave Ohio State's coaches faith in Brandon Inniss after that fumble last week?
Yeah, Brandon is a captain. He is a competitor. He's a baller, and nobody was sicker than him about that fumble. If we didn't see the type of play and the attention to detail and the discipline every day in practice, then we maybe would have thought about it, but that was never in consideration. I thought he had a nice return there, just missed maybe breaking it for more. But he's a guy who played quarterback because out of necessity in high school, and we saw something that we liked in Lorenzo. Play wide receiver at Notre Dame, as you know, and so we thought that maybe if we had the right look and the right situation and the right hash, that we could set something up. Doesn't always work the way you draw it up, but it was good to see the guys execute it and put it on the field, because when you can use special teams as an advantage like that. And I think it was it just under 40 yards of field position. That's a big return for us. So, we got to keep trying to figure out ways to make an impact on special teams, but that was well executed.
When you see a play like that, a great trick play that ends up really paying off, and they're using it in a game where they're up by a bunch already against an opponent that's pretty clearly outmatched, I think it's fair to wonder, should they maybe save that play and used it in a bigger, more, potentially more impactful spot? So, all right, Ryan Day, do you think about saving plays like that? Or is this more about giving upcoming opponents something else to worry about?
When you put something in, it's like, I've done it before. You save it and it never gets run. So it's like, I feel like, well, let's come up with something new for the next time. Let's have a couple of these different things that we can go to based on situations, because you just never know when these things are going to arise. And we can't worry about the score of the opponent. It's about us. So it's our job as coaches to be creative and keep coming up with things that can help us be explosive. And that's our job. But, but it's also good to see those guys execute that kind of, it gives them confidence to know that, we can do other things.
Before the Buckeyes took the field for the game on Saturday night, they had it on the scoreboard. They had that Penn State UCLA game up during warmups, and Ryan Day and the Ohio State coaching staff, they were watching the end of that game. They were aware of exactly what happened to Penn State, losing to previously winless UCLA. Now, if you go back through the years, Ryan Day, he hasn't really had a game like that. I mean, they have certainly lost to some big underdogs from Michigan, but that's a rivalry game. That's a throw the record book out kind of game. Nobody's saying Penn State, UCLA, oh, you can throw the record books out. That's not what that is. That was a bed pooping on Saturday night from Penn State out in the Rose Bowl against UCLA. So what is it that Ryan Day does or doesn't do that has helped him avoid games like that?
The first thing is, it has nothing to do with our opponents. You've heard me say that before, and I guess it sounds cliche and boring, but it's true. We don't save things for other opponents because maybe we've circled them on it's about our training. And we believe that if we train harder than anybody else in the country and prepare harder than anybody else in the country, that shouldn't matter who we play. And so this year it's been interesting because you start with Texas, and then you have Grambling, then you go Ohio, then you go to Washington, now you're home against Minnesota. All of those weeks should have been the same. How we train should be the same. It's about us. The only people we believe that stopped us is us. And that's the way we look at it. Easier said than done. You have to have a bunch of guys that buy into that and believe in it. And you got to credit the players for showing up regardless of the opponent, week in and week out. And that, to me, is what, if you want to be great, you have to be great all the time. Otherwise, you're not great. You're just somebody that shows up every week and you don't know what you're getting. So that was a message to our team. Because it's about an identity, and if your identity is, that you want to be great, that you want to be consistent, that whatever those things are, we have a list of what we want to be. You have to do that every week. Otherwise, that's not who you are. It's just what you can be. And we talk to our guys a lot about that, but there has to be buy-in. And I think our guys do buy into that. Now, doesn't mean anything. We got to go on the road against Illinois next week. It's going to be a bear. You saw what happened in college football today. You got to bring it every week, and the team that's desperate and the team that's hungry is going to win the game. And it's our job to make sure it doesn't take a loss to make sure we are hungry and desperate. But these guys are still kids, and so you got to keep hammering home. But I do think the confidence is there, and I do think even when you watch their offense kind of drive the ball down the field early, there was still no panic by the coaches, by the players, forced them to 3, and then played great the rest of the game.
You've heard Ryan Day talk during this press conference as well as the midweek press conference about the focus and needing to be at the top of their game, not letting stuff slide, all that kind of stuff. Has that talk over the course of the week been a result of stuff he's seen? Has he seen stuff? Are there seeing issues on the practice field? Are there concerns out there, or is that more just of an overall message?
Always on alert, because I'm sure that I've been coaching now for a while, and just never want to be in a situation where you go into a game and a game catches you off guard because you felt like you weren't on it, that you weren't hungry and desperate. Because when you watch teams that are that way, you see what you get. And so that to me is important to figure out, how do you have that mentality, yet when you keep winning, it's easy to take the problems and the issues and just say, it's not a problem. I'll just say it, Bo Jackson reaches the ball out on second down. That's a problem. We should not be reaching the ball out. That's going to be a fumble down the road. I'm just going to call it out for what it is. That's an issue. And if the ball is fumbled, then we're in a different situation right now. And so we have to recognize the things that we need to get better at. The 3rd and 2, Lincoln should have been in the A gap. He bounced it. That's going to lose us a game if we don't recognize how important those things are. I love those guys, but we got to get them fixed. And really that goes to the coaches. We got to get that straightened out. We got to practice it better. We got to drill it better. We got to hold them accountable. So those are the things that, when you're chasing greatness, you have to be all over, and you got to take them serious. And it can't be after a loss when all of a sudden everybody starts sitting up straight in meetings, or you're going to get burnt. So like they say in the Navy SEALs, when you think you got it, you're about to get it, and we're far from where we need to be. So we have to stay hungry every day.
And finally, it's always fascinating to me that something like this was the last question of the press conference for Ryan Day. This is potentially this enormous stat, this incredible fact, and you could watch him react to the question as it was asked, and it was kind of watching him process. It was pretty crazy. But he passed Knute Rockne, Notre Dame head coach Knute Rockne, as the winningest coach in college football history percentage-wise ever, period, full stop. Now, it is not official yet. The official record is you have to coach 10 full years. Day's only on year 7, so he's not there yet. But still, what does that mean to hear, yes, you've just passed Knute Rockne as the winningest coach in college football history?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is the last game I'll ever be coaching at Ohio State. I'm going to hang it up, and that's it. I'm going to do a walk-off right now. I appreciate being the coach here. No, a long way to go. It's, it has everything to do with the players, the coach in this place. But it's when you recognize how long some of those coaches coached, and you recognize, what they went through, and, the seasons and the different changes, you just can appreciate how long they coached. And, some of these seasons here are like dog years at Ohio State, but I'm just fortunate to be here, and I know what the obligation is. I know what the expectation is, and so do these players and coaches. So we'll just keep swinging away.
Well, Ryan Day, assuming he does follow through and does not actually retire, will be coaching the Buckeyes this weekend in Champaign, Illinois, taking on Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini Saturday at noon, big noon kickoff. Ohio State fans probably won't mind that quite as much with a road game as they do at home. But that game kicking off at noon in Memorial Stadium in Champaign, we will be there covering that. We'll have our usual pregame show, our usual postgame show. We'll be there for team arrival on Friday night. See if Ryan Day shows up. I'm guessing he will. We'll be there as well. Lots of coverage this week, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Also had a busy recruiting weekend, lots of visitors on campus. We put together a whole photo gallery of that for our members at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Plenty of coverage of some of those visits and what's going on after those. And of course, we'll have our usual X's and O's content this week as well with Ross Fulton, our X's and O's gurus there at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there, and we hope to see you at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.